Hey kids, Flexing Teacher Weber here. I hope you're doing okay. We have finished multiplying integers. Now we've started looking at dividing of integers. Just like we did with multiplying, I want to discover the rules for multiplying, explain why things are the way they are. Now, the first one we looked at was positive divide by positive, and we've been doing that for quite a while, right? So we already knew that that's a positive. But I like to get the kids thinking a bit more. One of the things I like to get them to thinking of is all the different ways we can write a division question. So you might see it like written like that, 8 divided by 2, or you might see it written as a fraction, or you might see it written the classic way like that, or you might see it written as a long division question. Now, either way you slice it up, the answer is going to be 4. But why is the answer going to be 4? Let's take a look at a couple ways we can think of a division question. Well, we can think of this as how many groups of 2 can you make with 8? All right, so if we use our integer model, where we have blacks are positive and unshaded are negative, then what we can do is we can use that model and we can make groups of 8 positives. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now, how many groups of 2 can you make with 8? Well, I count 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's one of the reasons why 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now, another way we can think of this is how many in each group if you separate 8 into 2 equal-sized groups. So let's do the same thing. Let's make 8 again. Okay. Doink, 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 doink. And let's separate them into 2 equal-sized groups. So we're going to chop them in half or separate them into 2 equal-sized groups. And then the question you ask yourself here is how many are in each group? Well, there are 4 in each group. So that's 2 ways you can think of a division question. Now, one of the things I really want the kids thinking about is how that relates to multiplication. So the question here was 8 divided by 2 equals 4. But let's think of the related multiplication to this division question. I think that's really important to make that connection. So the related multiplication here is what are the 2 multiplication questions I can make with that division question? Well, I can make positive 2 times positive 4 equals positive 8, and positive 4 times positive 2 equals positive 8. Since both multiplication questions work with the same numbers that we use for dividing, we know that a positive divided by a positive is a positive. Okay, let's apply the same idea to other examples. So let's look at a negative divided by a positive. Now, remembering that we can write this division question as a fraction or as a typical division question or even the long division symbol. They all mean the same thing. Now, there's only one way to think of this one. The way we can think of this one is take a negative 6 and divide it into 2 equal-sized groups. So let's make a negative 6. Doink, 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 doink. There's 6 negatives. Okay? Now, divide them into 2 equal-sized groups. That's what this means. So make 2 equal-sized groups. There you go. Okay? How many are in each group? Negative 3 are in each group. So that means a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And then if we look at the related multiplication, so the question here is negative 6 divided by 2, and we said that equals negative 3. Well, the related multiplication should work with this. And it's good to get the kids thinking about how division and multiplication connect. So the 2 multiplication questions I can make are negative 3 times 2. And that should equal negative 6. We've already been doing that. And it's true, it does. And then we can also do positive 2 times negative 3. That should equal negative 6. And it does. We've already been doing questions like that. A positive divided by a negative does not model well. So I had the kids say, okay, what do you think it's going to be? And they said, based on their knowledge of multiplication, that 8 divided by negative 2 is probably going to be negative 4. So let's use related multiplication to prove this. So if we're saying 8 divided by 2, negative 2 equals negative 4, then the related multiplication questions should work out. That means I should be able to take, using those 3 numbers, I should be able to make multiplication questions. Well, if I do negative 2 times negative 4, that should equal positive 8, and it does. And same thing if I reverse the order. Negative 4 times negative 2 does equal positive 8. So since the multiplication works out, and we've already proven that, we have proven that a positive divided by a negative is a negative. Okay, last one we need to look at. Negative divided by a negative. And remember, we can think of this as a fraction. We can think of it as a typical division question. I might put parentheses around this negative 4 to separate the divide sign and the minus sign. Okay, and we could also think of it as long division. Okay, now this means take negative 8 and divide it into groups of negative 4. How many groups are there? So I'm going to take negative 8, doink, 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 doink. There's negative 8. I'm going to divide it into groups of negative 4. So I want to make group sizes of negative 4. So there's a group of negative 4. There's a group of negative 4. How many groups do I have? Well, I count 2 groups. I count 1, 2. So the answer is positive 2. So based on that, we can say a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And then we can also use the related multiplication. So if I say negative 8 divided by negative 4 is positive 2, the related multiplication question should be correct. So I'll write related multiplication. So using those 3 numbers, the multiplication should work out. Okay, so I could do positive 2 times negative 4, and that should equal negative 8 based on the question, and it does. And we know that's true from multiplication. And then reverse it, negative 4 times positive 2 equals negative 8. So the multiplication questions related to that division work out. We have just proven in 2 ways that a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Now, due to these examples and the related multiplication facts, the rules for integer division are the same as the rules for integer multiplication. Positive divided by positive equals positive. Negative divided by negative equals positive. Positive divided by negative equals negative. And negative divided by positive equals negative. If the signs are the same, it's positive. If the signs are different, it's negative. In our next video, we'll look at some examples of that and some applications of that. But that gives you the main idea for integer division. That's all for now. Flexing Teacher Weber, out.